Rivals analyst Josh Helmholdt here, and it's another rankings week. So, Director of Rankings Adam Friedman joins me. Adam, an interesting rankings week, the very first ranking of the 2023 class.
Yeah, it's been a busy week, that's for sure, trying to figure out everything we can about these 23 guys. A lot of them we're still just learning the very first bits of information about. Some of them haven't played their sophomore seasons yet because of the pandemic. Some have gotten a little bit more experience with the in-game play, but they've been doing 7-on-7, they've been doing camps. It's been really interesting to try to put this list together. Guys from every corner of the country are all over this 100.
Yeah, in fact, California is about halfway through. I'm seeing a lot of mid-season highlight films coming out from California. But here in Illinois, I've been to games the last couple of weekends, but we actually met last week for this rankings meeting. So really the state of Illinois. So it's going to be a top 100 that evolves significantly, I think, in the next couple of months, just because of the nature of this unique high school football season that some happened and most happened in the fall, but you have these spring seasons in states like California, Illinois, and I know several states out east. Talk about the top of this 2023 class. We look at the names to know who are people going to be talking about the most over the next couple of years as this class develops and grows.
Yeah, the first one to start off with is an easy one. Number one overall, Levis LT Overton, a big-time playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. Such a strong, aggressive, natural defensive end that has elite athleticism. He's a big-time basketball player. He's got basketball offers from Ohio State and North Carolina to go with his impressive football offer sheet, too. Number one overall was an easy choice, I think, for us. And then you've got the two quarterbacks, Malachi Nelson and Arch Manning. This is going to be a great battle to follow throughout this 23 recruiting cycle. Manning, obviously the genes are really working in his favor there, but Nelson edging Manning out for that number one spot in the quarterback rankings. He's so smooth. He's got great accuracy. He just looks so natural back there. Really impressed with the California signal caller there. And then the receiver, the fourth five-star we've got in this 23 class right now, receiver Brandon Innes from South Florida, an absolute monster. He's not going to blow you away with size. He's not going to blow you away with speed, but there isn't a more natural receiver out there in this 23 class. He catches everything that's thrown his way. He's an elite route runner. He's always open, regardless of who's guarding him. And it's been like this for him for the last few years. We've gotten to know Brandon pretty well. He's been to our last couple of rivals camps. He's well known on the 7-on-7 circuit and camp circuit in Florida. Just an amazing prospect there that we just, the sky's the limit for him.
We're going to get into that quarterback talk definitely in a little bit here, but got to start with Overton. Okay, everybody's got to know his name. How do you pronounce his name correctly? You've talked to him. Go ahead and coach us up a little bit. I like, actually, if he has a nickname like LT, I like that a whole lot better.
LT is what he wants to go by. His first name is Levius, but we're going to call him LT. It's Levius Thomas Overton, but LT is what we're going with, and he can play like the LT, almost just like the LT.
As a diehard Lawrence Taylor fan from back in the 80s, because I'm that old, LT definitely warms my heart. So he is outstanding. If you go look at his film, the first thing you're going to actually see is that he pulls in a double-double almost every night on the basketball court and plays the basketball game similar to the way he plays on the football field. Just relentless attack. In fact, that was the hallmark of Lawrence Taylor's game, is relentlessness. So I like the comparison all the way around. Let's talk about these quarterbacks, because definitely this is what has gotten the most attention, I think, in this 2023 class early on. Arch Manning, son of Cooper Manning, older brother to Peyton and Eli Manning. Obviously, Cooper was a great football player himself coming out of high school, was committed, I believe, to Ole Miss, where his dad and eventually younger brother would go on to play. But Arch Manning, I think a lot of people just kind of assume, well, if you're a Manning and you're playing quarterback, you got to be the number one player in the class. He is outstanding. He is exceptional. But if you go turn on the film on Malachi Nelson, wow. I mean, what I like about his game is that he's so effective in distributing the football and so exciting to watch at that quarterback position. And yet there is still so much more growth. I mean, fundamentally, mechanic wise, he's definitely have some things to shore up, to shorten his delivery, to be a little bit more consistent with his release point. But he is so fun to watch, and he just makes plays happen. I was trying to think, is there a Marcus Mariota, almost a Ben Roethlisberger type, characteristics to him? It's really going to be a fun discussion to watch. And I'll throw in one more name, a guy I think could challenge. I think is sitting right now at number 30 is Dante Moore. Started as a freshman, led Detroit Martin Luther King High School to the state championship as a freshman. He is certainly a guy with a ton of hype and a ton of scholarship offers. Definitely could insert his name into this conversation at the very top of the quarterback position group in 2023 as well.
Yeah, Dante is a guy who I really liked on film. He is that, if Arch and Malachi are 1A, 1B right in there, Dante is a quick number 2, I think. I really like what he's able to do on the field. He looks very natural back there as well. He's got a cannon for an arm, it looks like on film. Moves around well, makes good decisions with the ball. Really exciting player. I love to see what he could do in a more controlled environment, get a better look at him up close and personal. But Josh, we were talking about this on the rankings call itself. I'm a big fan of Dante and what he's able to do. There are a couple other names, though, in this Rivals 100, the initial one, that I wanted to point out as potential guys that could rise up the rankings. The first one, we were talking about basketball comparisons with LT Overton, another major basketball player in this first 23 Rivals 100, Rodney Gallagher, a receiver out of Western Pennsylvania. He's a top 50, top 70 player in the 23 class right now as a point guard. He's got dual offers from a number of schools, but it projects more as a slot type of receiver at the college level. Really explosive, obviously has great hopping ability, leaping ability. He can high point the ball there, but just so sudden and a very smooth player as a receiver there. And then another one, an athlete we have him listed at, but he could end up as a receiver, maybe a defensive back, Jonel Aguero down at IMG Academy. A really strong, compactly built prospect who's got great speed, explosiveness, good ball skills. I'm a fan of what he's able to do. I'd like to see what he can do as a safety, maybe more of an in-the-box safety type, but he's electric with the ball in his hands too. And one more to point out to you, AJ Harris, a defensive back out of the Alabama, Georgia area, I believe, down in the South. Great length. I know he had an amazing showing at this last camp down in the Atlanta area that we were at. A guy that I could see rising up the rankings eventually too.
Defensive back is a strong position group again this year. Defensive end, actually, I think defensive end actually put the most prospects from any one position into this early Rivals 100, obviously starting up top with LT Overton. But a very interesting position group that is surprisingly deep this year is tight end. We have 8 tight ends in this initial Rivals 100. We have never ended a cycle with 8 tight ends. A few years ago, there were, I think it was 21, 2020, it might have been 2020. There were 6. So that was pretty close. But 8 tight ends early on. Starts up top, Jaden Greathouse, Austin, Texas. Definitely more of those flex guys, not a big guy, but you got a whole list of outstanding tight end prospects here that make up the first Rivals, first 8 guys and 8 tight ends in this Rivals 100.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good year, and I'm excited to get a better look at some of them, and we can sort some of this out. But having 8 of them in the top 100 would be almost unprecedented, like you mentioned there. Luke Haas out of Oklahoma, a huge prospect. Matthias Barnwell, a former Penn State commit, another huge prospect that could end up growing if he continues to grow into an offensive tackle. Shamar Easter, another big one out of Arkansas. We could go on and on here. Jackson Howard, Deuce Robinson, Mac Markway. I think these guys are really outstanding in what they're able to do on the field. Each of them plays a little bit differently, but I think they're going to all be highly coveted prospects down the road.
Yeah, Jackson Howard, I think, is already over 50 scholarship offers for a tight end who hasn't even, hit the halfway mark of his high school career. His father played at Stanford and in the NFL. You look at Mac Markway's a guy over at DeSmet High School. They've had 5-star Jordan Johnson came out of there. He's worked against, Rivals 100 cornerback Jalen Johnson from this 2021 class. So some really interesting storylines. What other positions are you seeing, or what other storylines are developing further down this Rivals 100?
There's a couple of linebackers in the state of Pennsylvania who are just outstanding. Three of them in this first Rivals 100 from the state of Pennsylvania: Tamir Robinson, Samaj Bridgman, and Josiah Trotter. Now, if Trotter sounds familiar to you, that's because his brother, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., just signed with Clemson following where his dad went, Jeremiah Trotter Sr. Josiah is a little bit different than the two of them. He's a little bit leaner, but still projects as an inside linebacker coming out of St. Joe's Prep right there in Philadelphia, just like his brother did. I think that he's a really special prospect. Samaj Bridgman, I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and he walked up to me, and the first thing that popped into my head is, this looks like a younger, leaner Micah Parsons. Reminds me of a guy who has that similar build, great length, a broad frame, about that 6'2", 6'3" range. He's going to continue to fill out. And when you turn on the film, the guy's explosive. He's a big time hitter. He can play on the edge of the defense. I think he's a really special prospect as well. And then out in Western Pennsylvania, Tamir Robinson played a lot of safety. So he's very rangy. He's long. He's got great speed, sideline to sideline. He just needs to learn a little bit more about the nuances of the position. But I think he's a major prospect who's going to end up being one of the higher rated players in this class, I think.
Yeah, and when you look at, talking about, obviously fans want to know where these guys going to end up. We're not even, like I said, we're not even halfway through their high school careers yet. But there are a few guys who have committed already. The highest ranked commitment in this Rivals 100 is Texas running back commit Reuben Owens, checks in at number 25 on the Rivals 100 list. But there are three teams that each have three commits already in the class of 2023: Florida State, Georgia, and then Boston College. And I've got to tell you what, I got a chance to see a couple of those Boston College commits, Detrell Jones and Boubacar Traore, I believe it's how he pronounces it, and especially the defensive end Traore. I think I think he's a guy that could challenge for 4-star status down the road. Even though it's early, there are, I think, about 15 Power 5 commitments so far in this 2023 class. So we're starting to see a little bit of a shakeout. Obviously, a little bit too early to tell who's going to have the top classes going in 2023, but a couple of early commitments here in 2023 already.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how teams react to these rules about players having the extra year of eligibility, how that's going to affect how many players they take early on in this recruiting cycle. It helped. We saw a little bit of the changes in this 22 class. And I think that we're still going to see that in the 23 class. We're expecting some smaller classes in this 2022 ranking cycle. I think we're going to still see some of that in the 2023 ranking cycle, but these top guys are still going to come off the board in big numbers, I think, and probably early on if they want to lock in their spots like we're seeing with this 22 class. But like you mentioned, Reuben Owens, I think, like you mentioned, he's the top rated commit right now. I really like his fit at Texas there. I think he's just going to be a really outstanding player in that scheme that they're going to be running over there. And there's certainly a lot left to unfold with some of these other commits and soon to be commits in this 23 class.
And this is just the first ranking for the class, and just 100 at this point. Obviously, that's going to evolve. There's going to be a couple of thousand ranked before all is said and done with 2023. As we go on from here, I think we'll see some 4-stars get added here over the course of the spring, and probably this summer, would you say, is when we have a full ranking, that first full Rivals 250?
Yeah, and position rankings probably in July is when we're looking at for just really filling out the rankings. A full Rivals 250, a full position rankings by July is the target there. But between now and then, we will be releasing about 10 to 20 names a week or so. New 4-stars, guys that we believe are among the elite prospects in this 23 class, and just some guys that we have a lot of confidence in. As we see more and more of these players during the spring, during these camps that are going to be starting up here very soon, the Rivals Camp Series about to get underway, we're going to see a lot of guys that should find themselves in the rankings by the time July hits.
Okay, before we wrap it up, who give us kind of a preview. Who are some of those guys who are not in this Rivals 100, but could be challenging for that. Who are some other names to watch in 23?
There are two out east here that I thought really hard about putting in the Rivals 100 originally here. The first one, Sadir Mitchell, an absolutely massive defensive lineman out of Bergen Catholic in northern New Jersey, played right next to Tywin Malone, Rivals 100 prospect in the 22 class. That just signed recently with, or excuse me, the 21 class that just signed with Texas A&M, if I remember right. Sadir Mitchell, an absolutely massive defensive tackle, a real space eater there who just pushes around everybody. And another one I wanted to mention was Will Norman. Not a whole lot of people know about this guy. He's from southern New Jersey, but now is playing up in Connecticut at St. Thomas More. And he's a big, strong side defensive end who does a good job using his hands, got a lot of athletic ability to him. His offer sheet is also starting to really pick up some steam there. We're excited to get a better look at him once this spring hits.
Yeah, another guy I'll mention, Daya McCullough, his older brother, Deshaun McCullough, Rivals 100 prospect in the 2022 class, committed to Ohio State. His dad, Dalen McCullough, is the used to be the running backs coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, now with the Indiana Hoosiers. So he's a guy with, I think, about 20 offers already. We just didn't feel like we hadn't got a chance to see him in person. Wanted to get a little bit better feel for his evaluation before we rated him. You're going to get a lot of that. There are guys, I was thinking about Walker Lyons. We talked about 8 tight ends in the top 100 already. Walker Lyons is a guy, I think, boy, I'm having a hard time finding a weakness in his game. Inline tight end who's also got that explosiveness and that ability to separate. He's out there in California. Again, California just playing their spring season. And so he hasn't been on the field for 15, 16 months. So I think you're definitely going to see some evolving names within that Rivals 100. I think I'll tell you what, we could have more than 8 tight ends in that 100 before it's all said and done. There's some really interesting guys that are kind of knocking on that door. So you can find all of this, all the full Rivals, ranked Rivals 100 on rivals.com. Adam has an article out going through each of the top players at the positions, and Adam Gorney is looking at the recruitments with his rumor mill. Find all of that on rivals.com. Until next time, we'll see you later, football fans.